Welcome to the 5-7 podcast. I'm your host, PrE, and today we are joined by Nikki Pepper. How you doing, Nikki?
I'm doing great. Thanks for having me on the show.
Yeah, happy Wednesday.
Yes, happy Wednesday. Glad to be here.
Could you please give an introduction of yourself?
Yeah, so my name is Nikki Pepper. I'm down here in Miami, Florida. I am a personal trainer as well as a group fitness instructor here. And I've been doing this for a few years now, and it's something I'm really passionate about and love to share with the rest of the world.
What made you want to get into that?
So I've always kind of been into sports my whole life. I grew up doing gymnastics, did competitive cheerleading in college. Then kind of after college, I started working for Reebok, which is a fitness brand for footwear as well as apparel. And I've always just loved being able to kind of help people and make them live happier and healthier lives, and wanted to be able to do for other people what fitness has done for me.
How long did you do gymnastics for?
I did gymnastics from age 5 all the way up until age 18. So my entire life was kind of after school, always going to practice and always learning new things and getting better. So right from as far as I can remember, I've been active and healthy.
How long did you does this practice for gymnastics normally last, especially during like a normal school week?
I would say as I started to get older, it was a little bit longer. I was very competitive, and it was up to like 20, 25 hours a week. So pretty serious, but I loved every second of it. So it's a big time commitment, but super fun at the same time.
Would you say the same is? Would you say it's the same for cheerleading? You know, like the amount of time that you have to put in?
Cheerleading was a little bit less, just because the team that I did do, it was still competitive, but because it was in college, it was only a few hours a week, maybe closer to 10 to 12, so a little bit lighter there, but still good to stay active in college as well.
Were you the person that was, doing like the flips down the side while all of the girls are like going like 20 feet in the air, or were you the one that was going 20 feet in the air?
I was a little bit of both. They kind of put me wherever they needed me. I was up in the air, I was down on the ground. I was pretty versatile. I like to do a little bit of everything.
That's cool. How was your experience working for Reebok?
Oh, Reebok was awesome. So what I really liked about that is kind of going from college and thinking about, like, what do I want to do with the rest of my life, like, at that point in time. I knew I loved fitness, and I went to a business school and kind of thought, like, how can I combine those things to, help people make a difference in their life? And through that, I found the company and making the products like footwear and apparel that allow you to do that. That was pretty fulfilling for me. It was some super cool opportunities, like things like going out to the CrossFit Games, working with different athletes, helping to have input into the feedback of our product and making it better for the consumer. So all really cool experiences, and kind of working for that larger international brand is really cool to see how things work on like a large scale. And then kind of using that experience going forward into what I'm doing now.
Was that right after college?
Yes, that was right after college, up in Boston, Massachusetts, where I'm originally from. And from there, they moved me down to Miami to kind of cover South Florida, all things Reebok. And long story short, I ended up meeting someone who works for my current facility that I train people at, which is Anatomy in South Beach. And from there, I kind of transitioned into my new role as a personal trainer down here.
Okay, so a couple weeks ago, just to go off topic for a second, my co-host and I, we did a countdown of like the top like 15 sayings that Boston has given, like the rest of the country. Okay, now you don't have a typical Boston accent, okay, but I'm curious. I'm very curious. Have you ever used the term Barbados?
No, but I do tend to use the word wicked pretty often. Like, oh, that was a wicked good game. The Super Bowl, pretty good.
Okay. So are you a big Patriots fan?
Big Patriots fan. All the Boston sports. Can't really you're kind of born and bred that way up there. So
I'd say the past 20 years, Boston sports has really been on fire. I mean, like all four teams have been, winning championships, consistently for the past, maybe like 15, 20 years.
Yeah, it's one after the next. It's 3 months apart, and it'll be too long between coming in first.
Right. So, what would you say is most fulfilling about what you do?
So the most fulfilling thing I would say is definitely getting to see someone's progress from when they first start and they're kind of unsure of themselves, and a lot of the things that you think about is, people want to lose body fat, they want to lose weight, but the real changes you see are more in the emotional side of things, which is kind of gaining confidence, like being able to play with your kids and things that are way outside the realm of looking good and losing weight. Just seeing that, that building confidence and a change in someone's personality and kind of outlook on life is kind of the most rewarding, and seeing that you're able to help guide someone along that path.
How long do you think it takes for, the average person to start building that confidence?
I would say it depends on kind of their starting point, because some people, they've already been into fitness for a few years. Some people are brand new, depending on their personal life at home, work-life balance, their stress levels. But typically after a couple months, someone's really, if they're consistent with it, which is one of the most important things, they're going to see some sort of positive change, as long as they're sticking to a few different things that we'll kind of cover.
Have you encountered any hardships or challenges with fitness?
Definitely. I know, just from my brief introduction, it kind of sounds like I've always been fit, and which is the case, but also not the case, because at certain times I've either gotten a really bad injury or kind of fallen off track. So there's been a few times where I've had to lose upwards of like 20, 25 pounds coming back from an injury or something like that. So just know that even those people who kind of seem like, they're always fit and things are easy, in the background, it's not always easy, and there's always going to be ups and downs. So it's never going to be like a linear line of progress, more like waves, up, down, up, down.
What kind of injuries did you have?
A couple injuries from gymnastics. The main ones would be lower back. I had some L4, L5 fractures and bulging discs. That was probably the worst one. So that took a while to heal and kind of come back from. But always know that even when things seem kind of like hopeless, they will get better, and there are ways to work around injuries and kind of get back to being healthy and feeling good.
I would definitely say that there's a lot of people, of all ages that have some kind of lower back or, like lingering back issues. What would you say is a good, say, routine to maybe stretch out your lower back?
Yeah. In terms of lower back, like there are a few kind of main causes or main things that you can do to remedy it. A lot of it is most of our lives we're kind of, in this office life, sitting at a desk, kind of hunched over and kind of just in that sedentary lifestyle. So number one is just kind of being active. In terms of kind of strengthening the low back and like preventing different injuries, definitely a lot of core exercises. So having a strong abdominal muscles as well as the muscles in your back is going to help you kind of stabilize around that spine, as well as doing some strengthening exercises for your hips, which are also kind of help you in making sure your spine stays safe.
For someone who doesn't exercise, what would be the beginning stages for them on their fitness journey?
Yeah, so one of the most difficult things is someone who's brand new to fitness, like where do I even begin? And kind of a couple things that I would encourage people to do that are brand new would definitely be to sign up for a membership at a gym. And that would be kind of reaching out to either friends or family or kind of browsing the internet for places in your area, giving a couple trials to some places and see which ones feel like the best fit. becoming a member somewhere is definitely going to get you surrounded by the people that are going to support you, kind of finding a community that will help you along with that journey. And with that membership or whatever you end up signing up for, either finding a certified trainer or starting to take group fitness track classes, as one of the most important things will be to learn correct form and making sure you're doing the exercises safely. So definitely investing in learning how to do things the correct way and the smart way to avoid getting hurt and kind of getting on the right plan for success.
I think there's a lot of people, they're like, it's December 30th, I'm going to do my annual New Year's resolution of getting fit, and they go to a gym and either they don't get a personal trainer and they start, hitting on the elliptical and then doing, leg extensions and, they don't work out properly. Or they do get a trainer and they stay on it for a little bit, but, they kind of fall off the wagon and then they kind of, go back to doing the same exercises that they normally do that they think is good. What do you think is a good, like a good routine or idea to get rid of these old bad habits of doing whatever exercise you think is work than say seeking a professional?
Yeah. So some different foundational exercises for beginners is I would always encourage to keep it simple. So I think a lot of the confusion in today's world is kind of like the overwhelming amount of information out there on social media and on the internet. Like you'll have these kind of like Instagram trainers putting out these like crazy exercises and it's like, how am I supposed to do that? I don't know how to do that. But really going back to the basics, which would be 6 or 7 foundational movements, including a squat, a lunge, a hinge, also known as a deadlift, any sort of pushing movement, which would be like a push-up, a bench press, dumbbell bench press, shoulder press, a pulling movement such as a pull-up, a row, lat pull-down, seated cable row, things like that, as well as some sort of carry, like farmer's carry and other core work, as well as some rotational things. So those are any movements you see in the gym can be broken down into any of those 7 or so different movements.
What would you say, maybe for home exercises that people can do as well?
Yeah, so different home exercises. Starting out, I've heard a lot of things from people like, I need to get in shape before I go to the gym. Which is understandable as first starting out. So some things you can practice would be some of the ones I just listed. Simply using your body weight to get comfortable. So just doing a body weight air squat is going to be great. You can also purchase some really easy and portable home equipment. Some of those being like a mat that you can lay down on to, again, protect your back. Some mini resistance bands, pair of light dumbbells and a kettlebell, and you can kind of start to progressively add weight to those exercises, such as adding the kettlebell to the squat once you feel comfortable. And in those things you can do in your own home.
Yeah, I agree with you. When you, I said in a couple podcasts ago, we were talking about CrossFit, and when you turn on Instagram and you got people, doing rowing, or they're doing like some rings work, and then they jump down and they hit the assault bike for 20 calories, and then they practically fall off of it, because they're probably going to pass out. And a lot of people see that, and yeah, sure, I guess it looks hardcore, to do that. Could you explain how dangerous that is for the average person to do? Because when you see these CrossFit athletes, a lot of them are they're in an absolutely incredible shape. So their bodies can kind of, I guess you could say, take that kind of abuse. But the regular person sees that and they might try and emulate that. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, definitely. And one of the things with CrossFit, I love it. I compete at it, and I think it's great for all kind of different ranges of people, is to kind of understand and know the difference between what you're seeing at the CrossFit Games. That is an elite level, like NFL level, like competitor. And then you have CrossFit for the sake of exercise. So you have that elite CrossFitter, they're trying to make it to the games, they're making a career of it. And that's on a totally different end of the spectrum of someone who's just trying to use it to have different variety in their workouts and kind of try different things each day, keep their workouts interesting, keep it functional. So definitely knowing your scaling options. So whenever you see a workout written in CrossFit, usually on the board it'll be called like RX or as prescribed. And what that means is at the box, that workout is written for the top person that they typically see coming into that box, which may be someone who competes locally. And then from there, that CrossFit instructor is supposed to offer scaling options for those that are beginners. So one example of that would be like a ring muscle up, like you mentioned, which could be super dangerous for someone who's brand new and kind of tries to go up there and might like tear their shoulder out. But one really good scaling option for that would be like a inverted ring row, which you can do at any level. You can put your feet as high or low as you want on the ground and just simply work on that same pulling motion. And you can progressively make that harder by starting to bring your feet out further. So just knowing different options that you can do the same workout and still have it be applicable to whatever fitness level you're at the moment.
Quick question. Another thing is, like a lot of people, obviously when you're competing in CrossFit, you're trying to, do it for time, Mm-hmm. So obviously you're trying to make your movements more efficient. Would you say that people, when they do CrossFit, that they shouldn't do it for time, that they should do it for, making sure that they're doing the exercises and moves properly so that they get, the most out of their workout?
Yeah, that's definitely a great question, and it's always a very tricky balance between you want to have it fast enough that you're still kind of getting that heart rate amped up and getting that metabolic effect, but you do want to make sure you're going slow enough that you do have correct form. So it's a very precise balance between the two. I would say, especially for the beginner, opt on the side of going slower and doing it right. Because once you're able to do those movements correctly and you feel comfortable with them, then you're able to start to pick up speed. So definitely primarily form over speed will always come first. And then the more used to it you get, the more fitter you become, then you can kind of start to push the limits there and see how you can shave a few seconds off your time each time on a similar workout.
Slow is smooth and smooth is fast, right?
Exactly.
What exercises would you say to stay away from at the beginning?
Yeah, so kind of touched on this a little bit earlier. So anything that's, super complex, I would, like the saying goes, keep it simple, stupid. The KISS saying, which goes for a lot of different things.
Oh, yeah.
Simple things work. They're simple and they're used again and again for a reason. That would be my first rule. And then my second rule of thumb is anything that causes pain, outside the sense of, it being difficult. If you feel any sort of low back pain, shoulder pain, always listen to your body. I know sometimes people kind of have that boot camp mentality of like, oh, no pain, no gain. But there's a difference between having pain from it, being difficult and being a little bit sore, or pain being your body telling you stop, like your bone structure or some sort of old injury or undiscovered injury is telling you to stop or you're going to do more damage. So keeping it simple and avoiding any sort of pain throughout the movement.
What are some of the, would you say, typical, an example of, someone having more grandiose plans when they come to you? Like, say someone comes to you and they're like, yeah, I want to do 60 pull-ups and I want to run a mile in 4 minutes. Like how do you manage like a client's expectations?
Oh, definitely. That's a great question. So I really love people that do come in with some sort of goal in mind, and sometimes you do have to kind of check and see where they're at first. It's like, okay, well, when was the last time you worked out, or tell me your last like workout routine, and they'll say, oh, I haven't trained in 3 years. Okay, well, let's try to take a couple steps back and kind of break that goal into smaller goals. So before we, do 60 pull-ups, let's do 10 strict, really good pull-ups, and then we can kind of reevaluate and reassess from there. So I really like the method of setting smaller goals that are more attainable, and that way you feel more accomplished as you start to accomplish them sooner, rather than kind of feeling defeated by a goal that might be too big at the time, but eventually will be attainable.
I'm someone who kind of, I pride discipline over motivation. And a lot of people, they, especially starting out, they have well intentions at the beginning, but they fall off. And they want to get back, but, laziness, kind of creeps in. And I think everybody gets that, every once in a while. That's why I believe in discipline, because, discipline will get you there every day. But motivation, you run out of motivation quick. What would you say, to tell somebody like, hey, just keep going, or, just keep coming back in? Like, what do you do personally to get people to come back in?
Yeah, that's a really good question. And I think one of the main things that I always address in my first one-on-one meeting with someone is what are your biggest challenges in the past that have either prevented you from reaching your goals, or kind of stopped you from coming in or taking a break from your routine. So definitely identifying obstacles before they happen, so that you can set procedures into place to kind of prevent that from happening again. A couple different examples that I can think of offhand would be like accountability. So one thing that's really helpful is if you're more likely to show up for something if you feel accountable. One thing can be finding a friend that you're going to go to the gym with at the same time every day, and you'll feel like you're letting that person down if you don't show up to train with them. So finding a training partner, or as well as finding a personal trainer and making an appointment. And, if you don't make your appointment, then you either lose that appointment or you're going to get charged for it, whatever percentage, or you miss the session. So finding ways to keep yourself accountable, I think, is a good rule of thumb.
Yeah, that's got to be difficult, and incredibly frustrating at the same time, because, you're trying to help somebody, but, they don't show up.
So that happens sometimes.
So, obviously, there are people. I'm sure there's a good amount of people who do stick with it, and like everybody at the beginning, they experience the soreness and the the aches and pains. What do you think? What do you think is good to help people like mitigate the soreness?
Yeah. So depending on where the person is starting out from, one way to kind of ease back into a fitness routine would be to start off with total body workouts. So kind of those movements I mentioned earlier of the squat, the lunge, the hinge, an upper body movement, some core. So if you were to just do one or two exercises of each muscle group, that way you're not going to, for example, do an all legs day. Because if you haven't trained in a while and you're doing all legs, you're kind of building up more lactic acid in that same muscle group. Whereas if you spread it out through all different muscle groups and then instead go multiple days a week doing total body, that's going to help out someone who's brand new. Also focusing on different recovery aspects, which are just as important as the training itself. A few of the most important ones being sleep. So getting enough sleep, that means that's different for every individual. But sleep is when your body repairs itself and can help with that soreness. Proper nutrition, so making sure you're having protein after your meals, which helps your muscles rebuild those tears that occurred during training. Other things like doing a cold plunge or a cold shower, and making sure to spend ample time warming up and cooling down. So warming up with like a dynamic warm up and doing some sort of cool down, and then some things like foam rolling, different mobility work, and things of that nature.
What kind of cold? Because I'm seeing it everywhere now. There's people like jumping into the pond and it's 40 degrees and I get it, it's cool, but like what kind of like what does the cold actually do to your body?
Yeah, so one of the features that we have at our facility in South Beach is a cold plunge. And what that does is it restricts the blood flow so that your blood, so when you go into something that's cold, what your body does as a mechanism to kind of save itself is your body will leave, the blood will leave the lower extremities and your fingertips, your toes, and kind of rush to your organs. And then sort of like a flushing mechanism, then it flushes back out as you kind of regain heat there. So that kind of, in simple terms, it flushes the system. And that would be kind of one of the main benefits. And it also helps with other benefits as well as like oxygen uptake and things like that. Think of it like a giant ice pack as well.
Do you ever do any cold water meditation or anything like that?
I've done different sort of breathing exercises. There's a guy whose name is Wim Hof. So a lot of that will be kind of practicing like breathing when you're in the cold, which can just kind of help you deal with that cold shock, because it is definitely uncomfortable to be in there. So focusing on slowing down the breath, slowing down the heart rate, and staying in a calm state, making sure the body doesn't get in that panic mode, because we do want it to be relaxing. And panic, the body sees it as like a threat.
He's that guy who, like you see pictures of him. Yeah, the Iceman. Okay, I was just going to say that. I heard that guy climbed. He almost got to the tip of Mount Everest without in shorts, and which is unbelievable. I read about that earlier today. I'm pretty sure it's the same guy, and and that's absolutely remarkable, because he says that he's trying to change the way that people breathe, and he's trying to change the way that that people how they perceive their physiology. And that's incredibly interesting, because there's times when you're like, oh man, I'm cold, but then you're, say you're at like I'm in Chicago, so if you're at a Bears game, you're sitting out there and you're cold, you're like, okay, I'm cold, but you'll sit out there for 4 hours and you'll be cold for 4 hours and you'll be okay. Do you know what I mean? I wonder what what the mind. I got to look into that guy more, because he's really interesting. But I'm curious on what the mindset thing that he's pushing that can get you to do that. Have you looked into him at all?
Yeah, I took his seminar last year. I'd have to.
Oh, you met him?
We went over some stuff. I'd have to take a look at my notes again, but a lot of it kind of has to do, and I don't want to misspeak here, but that kind of mind over matter of getting yourself into a calm state. When you actually use like nasal breathing, this is kind of like a slightly separate topic. That helps kind of calm the nervous system down as well. So if you're ever feeling frantic and whatnot, when you breathe through your nose, it causes kind of like a calming sensation, to put it simply. And then when you see people panting out of breath and breathing through their mouth, that causes more of like a panic response. So that's kind of one strategy. And I'm also a very big fan of meditation in general. And I've used different apps such as Headspace or Calm to kind of use that as a guided meditation. In the past, I've had a hard time of just kind of sitting and trying to meditate on my own, thinking of like, what do I have to do tomorrow, and what happened today, and like, what do I have next week. But when you have that guided voice in the app, or maybe a class, it kind of takes you out of the present, out of the moment, and then into exactly what you're supposed to be focusing on, whether that be your breath or a single sound or a single feeling. And it's a really cool sensation when you get it right, and you feel very present, and it really does calm you down.
Do you do any yoga?
I don't do yoga too much. I wish I did, because I feel like it is, again, like we talked about, a good recovery aspect, not only for the body, but also for the mind. And that is something that I would look more into and would encourage people to do as well, as I have I have some fellow coworkers that are yoga instructors, and anytime I've taken their class, it's been a really rewarding and positive experience.
Yeah, it is. I mean, I started doing it maybe 2 months ago, and I found it to be an incredibly good stress reliever, because obviously you have bad days. You want to go to the gym and, pound some plates or something, and, that's effective. But, there's other days where, things are just bothering you and they're lingering and, maybe you go to the gym and you hit it and, afterwards you don't feel any better. I found that yoga can help you, kind of just let that stuff go. Do you know what I mean? And, and it's a like you said, I think it's a really great recovery, active recovery thing. We'll get into that in a minute, but yeah, and especially because like there's a lot of breathing that goes into it. Just like you were saying, they tell you to breathe through the nose and through your mouth, and I find it to be like you said, incredibly relaxing, and it really helps kind of kind of just let the stress go in a way. And I've wanted to start getting into meditating because I mean I've never really done that because like you, I kind of when I sit down, I've got like 15 things going through my head, and I can imagine that it's really difficult, and I haven't started to pursue that yet, but I will. But so yeah, and you know what, I read what's his name's that's that guy's name, he's like really hardcore, David Goggins. I read his book, and he was talking about, there's a section of his book where he talks about the PSOAs, and he was talking about like these health issues that he was having, and he thought he was dying, and he didn't know what the heck it was, and everything, and he found out that it was because like he doesn't stretch, or he didn't stretch very much, and he was like, okay, so he started stretching, like hours for a day, and then he found out that his symptoms were starting to subside, symptoms that he was having, because at one point he was running like, he was doing the Badwater 135 miles, and then just an elite athlete. He was doing ultra marathons, he was doing ultra triathlons, just a tremendous athlete. And then out of nowhere, he couldn't run, he said, like practically 2 blocks without having, like his heart race. And he found out that his PSOAs were just like way too tight. And there's a lot of yoga stretches that stretch that out. And I didn't even know that. And he also said that because our bodies, the way that they work is when our muscles get tight and we get tense, it's hard for blood to flow through our bodies. So that yoga and stretching, it loosens our muscles and it allows the blood to go freely, and that's why we get the like we're more awake, or we have like we have a more relaxed feeling after doing yoga and stretching. Sorry, I went off on a tangent there.
All very good stuff, and that reminds me of that whole, the importance of recovery, and we talked a little bit about active recovery. So once people do get into that routine, that's actually one of the things that is most commonly neglected. And, it's super important because you want to keep doing your routine, but you can't, beat yourself into the ground and not spend the time to rebuild yourself. So like one of the ways is to make sure to always include 1 or 2 like just pure recovery days, as well as adding it to the beginning or end of your routine, working on different weak areas, as well as areas that may have old injuries or things that are causing you pain, like you mentioned the psoas, which is a common cause of low back pain as well. So really focusing on that to make sure you're able to stay in the gym and not getting derailed by this like debilitating pain that could, prevent you from reaching your goals.
What would you say is the importance of cardio?
So with cardio, I would say it's definitely important. And I would say to mix it into routine, but strength training really takes a priority, in my opinion. And with the cardio, to be the most efficient with your time, I would make it interval training. So kind of going for intense bouts at a time and then taking either a quick rest or going at a slower speed for a little bit. So that could be either, treadmill sprints, or one machine that I truly love and have kind of been doing a lot this year is the Concept 2 rowing machine. So it works the whole body. It's your legs, it's your back, it's your arms. Super efficient. You're still working your muscles there, but you are getting that heart rate up. Definitely important for your health in terms of your heart, your lungs, and keeping you healthy in that sense. Because you definitely don't want to do only strength training and then go up a flight of stairs and be out of breath. Like, you got to keep everything well-rounded. So you might be super strong, but if you can't, run a little bit to escape whatever danger, you're going to be too much on one side, not enough of the other thing.
Yeah, I'm a huge proponent of of people getting fit to, if they ever needed to defend themselves, or if they needed to help their loved ones, what if you're in like a God forbid a train derailment, and you need to pull yourself up, a few rows of seats, what are you going to do? Just lay there and not do anything? Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, for sure. And in terms of the cardio too, the one thing that I would caution people is that kind of traditional thing you see of someone, running 45 minutes or 45 minutes just chilling on the elliptical. Like, you want it to be intense and productive. And then also when you do that long duration steady state cardio, that does take away from some of the strength that you're working on in your weight training. So just being mindful of what your goals are. If your goal is to do something like a long distance marathon, or you like to do triathlons or cycling, and that's your goal, then that's something you should focus more on. But if you are looking to, work on your strength and more on that realm of things, just being cautious of how much steady state cardio that you're incorporating, because one will kind of take away from the other.
A lot of people, when you talk about cardio, they think that, you go outside and you go and run for, you go run 2 miles or what have you. Other than running, what are some different types of cardio other than running and rowing? I mean, I'm a huge fan of the rower, like you are, because it works everything. And actually, if you really think about it, it's got to be more efficient than running, because, I mean, like you said, you're using your arms, you're using your legs, you're using your back, you're using your core. You're using everything.
Yeah, definitely. There's a few other machines as well. There's a machine called a skier. You can hop on a bike, either an Airdyne bike, an assault bike, or your traditional bike. You could go to a spin class. You could do the Stairmaster. You can also turn body weight or lightweight training into cardio. So you could do a bodyweight circuit, and one way to turn that into cardio is just to shorten your rest. So you could do squats, push-ups, etc., and just do it nonstop, and then, or fast, short and fast with a little bit of rest in between, and that way you're kind of getting the best of both worlds. So I like to call it fake cardio because it's a little more fun.
Yeah. Actually, that's what I like to do. I like to do the same thing. I do like kind of like circuits, I guess, because
yeah, exactly.
I mean, you get it done a lot quicker in a way, and at the same time, like, I mean, you're really putting in a lot of effort,
Yeah, exactly.
So a big word that gets thrown around is functional fitness, and I don't think a lot of people know what it is. Could you define what functional fitness is?
Yes, definitely. So it's definitely become one of those taboo words of like, what is, it's functional, it's not functional. So when we use the word function, what we're really saying is that something has a purpose. So a lot of that is, for example, when you squat, the purpose of that is, one purpose could be being able to sit or stand out of a chair. Anything that kind of is able to translate into something in life, I would call functional, as well as it involves multiple joints in the motion, as well as integrating different muscle groups and movement patterns in different planes. I know that's kind of broad, but for example, something that's more traditional, like bodybuilding, would be like working a biceps curl. Like you're only using one joint, you're going up and down. That's not to say it doesn't have a purpose, but it's not functional in the sense of a deadlift would be picking up a heavy box or picking up your kids off the ground. Like that's the function more or less of that movement.
Yeah, how often do you curl things during a day?
Yeah, and one thing I like to do is I would define my style at my personal training style is primarily quote unquote functional, but definitely still incorporating those little things as what we call accessory work. So you have your primary things like your squat, your deadlift, etc. But then working on your quote accessories such as triceps extensions, etc., to prevent certain injuries of the elbow, and just kind of fine-tuning the little details at the end of the workout as a bonus and a preventative measure.
So wrapping things up, it's just, we're at the end of the workout. Can we just cover the, active recovery, just kind of like a recap really quickly. Yoga is one, cold immersion is another. What other active recovery things can people do?
Yes, a couple of my favorite ones would be SMR, which is like something like foam rolling. So using either a foam roller, a lacrosse ball, something to kind of get into the soft tissue, and that kind of breaks apart and eases up that top layer that covers over the muscle. That would also be things like getting massage using like a hypervolt or a Theragun, so more soft tissue work. Those things definitely very important. Working on mobility actively, which is kind of how far your joints are able to move in an active range of motion. So working on those things to be able to do things in your workouts better. So one example would be, getting the correct overhead position. So if you want to do something like a snatch or an overhead press, you want to make sure you have the range of motion to support that not only passively, but to actively be able to hold something there. So definitely incorporating those into the end or the beginning of the workout.
Would you say that, say you go do your workout, Monday, Wednesday, and Friday, would you say that maybe playing a sport, is a good mode of active recovery?
I wouldn't, depending on what the sport is. So something that's definitely a little bit lighter on the body. So maybe something like golf or like a light game of soccer or something that you're not feeling super beat up the next day. Another example is just going for a walk, getting some fresh air, taking a leisurely stroll. So just doing things that you're moving, but you're not feeling beat up or drained afterwards.
Well, thank you very much, Nikki. It was a very informative podcast. I appreciate your time.
Yes, definitely. And then I have just as like a closing thought in just fitness overall, and kind of some advice for those beginners or people that might struggle, is find something that you enjoy doing, because if you enjoy doing it, you're going to come back to it and it'll become a habit and something that's going to last you a lifetime. And where can people find you? People can find me on Instagram. My handle is Salt and Pepper, with the Boston accent, of course. So it's SALT.N.PEPPAH. And I'll give you a follow back, and definitely feel free to message me with any questions. I'm always willing to help out. And where are you located at the Fit Academy in Miami? It's in Anatomy in South Beach, and the Instagram handle for that is just @anatomy. And you can find me there right in the heart of South Beach. Not too bad down here. right in the sun, right? Yeah. warm and 80 degrees here. Sorry, everyone else.
Oh man, yeah, it's like 20 and glary here.
Yeah, don't miss that. So
all right, guys.
Come by.
All right, this is Nikki and PrE out.